Hello, welcome back to Keefe's Kitchen. This week, we're making a traditional Salvadoran dish. It's called pupusas. The name just rolls off the tongue, pupusas. It's so fun to say, and I'm sure it's fun to eat as well. It's kind of the Salvadoran version of zombies. If you watched last week's video, zombies were just the yeast roll stuffed with meat and cheese and whatever your heart desires, you can put in there. And these are similar. So they use masa, which is that corn flour we used for a recipe a while back, and you fill it with a mixture of refried beans and cheese traditionally, and you can also add meat. And I'm going to add meat this week. I'm doing some chorizo, which I'm excited about. But you fill the pupusa with your filling, and then you pinch it closed, kind of like you did with the zombies. And then you flatten it into a pancake, and then you fry that pancake, and then you eat it. And so traditionally, it's served with a fermented cabbage relish called Chorizo, and often with a salsa roja, which is a simmered tomato-based salsa that has chicken bouillon in it. And I really wanted to make it, but I felt like making 3 things in a video is a lot of things. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make homemade refried beans, and we're gonna make the pupusas, and then I'm just gonna eat them. So come along with me as I make pupusas.
First, we're going to start making our own homemade refried beans. So take a skillet, put it on the stove over medium heat, and add in about a tablespoon of vegetable oil and let it come to temperature. Once the oil has come to temperature, add in about a half cup of diced onion. This is just half of a medium-sized onion that I've diced up. Add it right to the oil, and we're going to cook that at medium heat for about 5 to 7 minutes until the onion starts to darken nicely. While the onion's going, I started my chorizo in a separate pan, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. Just put it right in there and fry it up. Now some spices. This is a 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon chili powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon cumin. Toss that right in on top of the onions, and we're going to fry that up for about 30 seconds just to get the spices nice and awake. And then I'm going to add in my beans. So I have 2 15-ounce cans of pre-cooked pinto beans. So you could make your own just by soaking the beans and then cooking them and then, whatever. But either way, you're going to get a very, very similar taste. So I went the path of least resistance this week and just bought the pre-cooked pinto beans. I drained them, and you're going to add, like I said, 2 cans or about 30 ounces of pinto beans right into the pan. And then you're also going to add in a 1/2 cup of water. And this makes sure that the mixture doesn't get too dry, stick to the bottom, or burn, anything like that. Stir to incorporate the onion spice mixture and the beans. Pop a lid on it and cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. After that 5 to 7 minutes is up, take the lid off and give it a little stir. And then we're going to mash our beans. So in this particular case, I decided to, well, you can use a food processor or a blender. I didn't feel like pouring stuff out of the pan and then putting it back in the pan, so I used a potato masher. So just mash the beans to your desired smoothness. Now, again, if you use a food processor or a blender or anything, it's going to be very smooth. Mine is a little bit chunkier, but that's okay. So once you have it mashed to your liking, turn the heat down, and I forgot to add my garlic earlier. So this is 3 cloves of minced garlic. I'm going to add that in there for the last little bit of cook time. You'll stir it in, and then you're going to put the lid on top and cook it for another 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll be done with the beans. After that final 3 to 5 minutes, add a little bit of lime juice, and you'll see I added the juice of about 1/2 a lime. And this is really to taste. If you don't like lime in there, that's fine. You can leave this step out. But lime is awesome. So I decided to add 1/2 a lime into mine. Stir it just to kind of scrape it off the bottom of the pan so nothing gets stuck and burned. and then add in your lime juice, turn the heat off, and then pull it off the heat and let it sit to the side, and it'll thicken up nicely, which is good because we don't want it to be too runny when we put it inside the pupusas. With the beans done and cooling, it's time to make our pupusa base. So into a bowl, add 3 cups of masa flour, and we're going to add to that 3 teaspoons of salt, and that'll add a really nice flavor, and you won't have to season it other than obviously the fillings. And then we're going to add 2 2/3 cups hot water. Now this hot water is important. If it's not warm, or hot rather, it doesn't hydrate the corn quite as quickly, and we want that corn to hydrate really nicely. So add it all to the bowl of a stand mixer and start mixing on low just so it doesn't splash everywhere, and then you can speed it up after that. We want to mix till thoroughly combined. You can also do this by hand. It's quite simple to do. Just use a spoon and mix by hand for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once it's finished mixing, you're going to be left with a dough that's a bit sticky and kind of rough. So we're going to leave that in the bowl for about 15 to 20 minutes to rest, and that will let the dough, masa rather, fully hydrate, and will give us a really nice flavor and texture for our pupusas. Once the dough is finished resting, we're going to start making the actual pupusas. So I decided to use an ice cream scoop to get a nice uniform size. Scoop they're about 2 ounces roughly of the dough and place it on a baking sheet. And you're going to go for 12 of these little dough balls. And if you have some left over, that's fine because you can use it to mend any cracks or holes in your final pupusas. And cover these with a damp kitchen towel so that they don't dry out. And we're going to make our pupusa. So here in a little Pyrex bowl, I have a cup of water and a 1/3 cup of oil. Now this is going to act as 2 things. It's going to act as an oil barrier between our hands and the pupusa itself, and it's going to help hydrate the dough, as you can see me doing here. I'm kind of working some of that water and oil into the dough. So this is how you form the pupusa. Take your thumb and create an indentation right into the dough, and you don't want it to go all the way through. And then kind of similar to the sopes, you're going to use your thumb and index and middle finger to kind of form a wall all around that indentation. And again, you don't want it to be too deep. You don't want to go right through. And then now we can start filling. So I started with some oaxaca cheese, which is a traditional Spanish cheese, and then you're going to add in some chorizo. Again, this is optional, but I feel like it's a really nice addition. And then the refried bean mixture, which by now has cooled and thickened up very nicely. You're going to add that right in, and then you're going to take the edges that you kind of made into walls, and you're going to start pinching them closed. And you can use, like I just did, you can use some of that oil-water mixture to make it so that your hands don't stick to the dough. And it's a little messy, and that's okay, right? It doesn't have to be this perfect, clean process. But just pinch and fold and try to close up all those gaps on top. Take your time, you don't need to rush. And once you have closed up the entire package, it looks kind of similar to our zombies from last week. Now here's where we start to get pretty different. So once you've got everything together, you're going to start pressing it down slowly using the palms of your hands. And again, those are greased with that water and oil mixture. And you're going to flatten this down into a pancake shape about 1/3 of an inch thick. Now I made mine a little bit thick, and that's okay. It tastes great in the end, spoiler alert. But you'll notice that there are a couple holes and a couple cracks. So what you can do is take some of your leftover dough, and you can put some right on top of those holes and kind of just patch things up. And it's also really helpful if you dip your fingers again back in that water-oil mixture, and it smooths everything out really nicely. Don't be discouraged if you do have some cracks or some filling leaking out. That's just going to add extra flavor as it caramelizes in the pan as we fry them in our next step. So just continue this process for the rest of the pupusas, and then we will proceed to fry them. So I'm using a non-stick skillet that is not traditional. Traditionally, you would use a cast iron griddle, but mine needs seasoning, so I wasn't able to do it. Add in about a tablespoon and a half of vegetable oil or any other frying oil. You could use peanut oil as well if you wanted, or canola. I added about a tablespoon and a half of vegetable oil over medium heat. So especially with nonstick, you don't want the heat to get too high. That can really ruin your nonstick coating. And when you're frying, remember, wear an apron, right? Even if it's a strange-looking apron, wear an apron. It'll save your clothes and your skin as well from oil splatters. So let that oil come to temperature, and once the oil is shimmering, it'll take about 3 to 5 minutes at medium heat, we're going to add in our pupusas. So you're going to fry them. It doesn't really matter which side, but you're going to fry them for about 3 to 4 minutes, I would say, on each side. Now, if you're going to be doing this in a cast iron skillet, keep an eye very closely on those bottoms because you don't want them to stick and burn. In this non-stick, it's a little bit less of an issue, but 3 to 4 minutes per side. And once that time is up, you're going to flip them over and check on the color, make sure everything looks good. And this one looks really nice. And so flip that over and cook it for another 3 to 4 minutes on that side until it's done to your liking. And you'll notice the little crispy bits on the outside. That's from that leaking filling, and I mean, nothing wrong with that. Once you've finished frying them, take them out. That looks really nice. And plate them up, and they're ready to eat. Best eaten hot. So I had quite a few to cook, so I ended up waiting just a little bit. But you're basically done. You can garnish this with whatever you like, with that pickled cabbage or some salsa roja.
So, the pupusas are done! So I will be the first to admit that these are not authentic pupusas. Not only did I not cook them in a cast iron skillet, as is traditional, and that was because my cast iron skillet needs to be reseasoned, but also they are just a little too thick, I think. Part of that is my own fault, just my inexperience in making them. But I'm excited to give them a try. So crispy on the top and bottom, which is nice. A nice layer of meat and bean and cheese on the inside. So let's give it a taste. I mean, it's really difficult. I wish you guys were at my house right now, and I could give you these so you could taste them. They taste wonderful. So there's nothing quite like freshly cooked masa and any like fresh corn tortillas, the sopes, which I made last time, and then these pupusas. Just something about how fresh they taste just elevates the whole thing. And then of course the filling is great. The beans are awesome. Cheese and chorizo is the bomb. I have some garnishes here. I'm gonna ignore them, I think. Traditionally, in El Salvador, you walk around. This is like a hand food, so it's not really something you need utensils for or whatever. So the garnishes, I think, you would normally have, like I said earlier, the curtido and the salsa roja, but I didn't make those. So I'm really happy with this. I think you will be too if you make it. Man. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So, this has been another episode of Keefe's Kitchen, Pupusas edition. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, thanks for watching. See you next week.